Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the Flame Toys Jazz. This is one of my favorite lines, one of my favorite brands, and it's just because, yes, they are incredibly expensive. I don't like that part of it, but they do make the highest level of products that I have collected, personally. The level of detail is incredible, the finish is incredible. If not for the high price, these are the best things on the market. Like, you can't do better. So I like this line a whole bunch. That's not to say it doesn't have problems, and the high price point does introduce probably a stricter review. So we're going to see what we can come up with on this one. So let's go ahead and get them off the stand and take a closer look. Okay, before we get into the figure, I do want to show you my package. It is huge. Their packaging is probably a tenth of the price. I'm joking, but it is really overly done. It's awesome. If you love good packaging, these guys have the best packaging. The artwork on the front, the photo with a little bit of photoshopping looks great. It's really high quality print work and cardboard. Like, there's nothing wrong with it at all. It's awesome. It's huge. Here's a Darwin for comparison. Gigantic packaging. There's some posability. Then you get your magnetic flap with some more posing options and the figure on the black tray. I mean, it is good packaging, no doubt, but it is overly large and probably way nicer than it needs to be, because I'd rather spend less money on the figure and have average packaging. But that's a thing for me. You can decide for yourself how you feel about that. Alright, let's get into this. I'll say it is available at Big Bad Toy Store. There's a link in the description below. It comes in at $309, maybe $99, I don't remember. It's expensive. These Flame Toys figures are by far the most expensive figures per size that I have ever experienced. They are incredibly expensive. I get where it's coming from. I get why they charge what they charge, but it's still a $309 8-inch figure. Or 7. Let's see. He stands, yep, 8 inches. Just about 8 inches. That's going to make him roughly 20.5 centimeters. Here he is up against Optimus. I don't have any other ones that are from, like, actual Transformers. I have the Beast Wars one, but these are the only two I have on this right now. I don't have Drift anymore. He's somewhere in between these two, I believe. And I'm going to get him when he comes back out again, I think. Anyway, he's a little bit smaller than Optimus, one of my favorite figures in my collection. But he should be smaller, so that's okay. Alright, let's get into a question of the day. Are you willing to spend big bucks if the figure has really high level of finish, really high quality, or is it just a bridge too far? It's just too expensive for a toy, too expensive for a collectible, and therefore you're out. Because I get it. I'm that way for most things. These things I'm sometimes willing to spend a little bit extra because I think they're pretty darn cool. Okay, so finish on this guy is just like the other ones. It's incredible. There's really nothing I have a problem with. There's no issue in the paintwork. I mean, it's about as perfect as you can get for an action figure. It is really, really well put together, really well finished. I don't think there's anything to complain about in terms of the finish quality. And that's why I'm willing sometimes to spend a little bit extra on something like this. But that doesn't mean there's not something to be said for spending less and having something that's not quite as perfect, because it's a lot of money. It's probably too much money for a toy. But that's a very subjective thing. So yeah, the finish quality is incredible. The character design, if you're about the modern takes, then it's great. It looks really, really good. It captures the character of Jazz just fine, and you get a little bit of extra flair. Like these, for instance, can be dealt with in different ways, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, I'm fully okay with the aesthetic. The only thing that really bothers me is the way they did his ankles. At some angles it's okay, but others it's really gappy, and it's nowhere near as polished as Optimus. His ankles tuck nicely into his boot shrouds, if you want to call it that. This guy, nowhere near as well. I'll show you that when we get to the articulation, but it's a little bit annoying to pose him, and then you have these big gaps on his feet. But otherwise, he looks incredible. So I will say 9 out of 10. The quality is through the roof. It's just that ankle thing that bothers me. Now, I will go ahead and address this now. He does have a light-up feature. And unlike most things I review where the light-up feature leaves a little bit to be desired, this one is like looking into the sun. It's so bright. You'll probably be able to see him with the studio lights on, but we're going to go ahead and turn him on. It's these two buttons back here. That right there, and then this one. One does his head, one does his chest. If I remember correctly, this one is his head. That's his chest. All right, but yeah, you can see they light up nicely. In fact, with the studio lights on, that's a pretty good look. His head lights up, his visor, and the center thing on his crest, or whatever you want to call that. I like the way that looks with the studio lighting on. With the studio lighting off, it's almost like they're just bare LEDs. There's no frosting or anything. So they have a little bit too much of a flashlight effect as opposed to a glowing effect. Which, I mean, some people won't care. I just don't like my lights to blind me. I'd rather they just glow. They look good on camera. They're not bad, don't get me wrong. I prefer bright over dim, but I think frosting the lenses just a little bit would help. Because you can even see, like you can see through the visor to the LED. And same thing for the headlights. At the right angle, you can see the LED. So it's not a bad thing, don't get me wrong. But at this price point, I don't want to have any complaints. And that's something I think most companies deal with. They frost the lenses. That'd be like if you got an Iron Man Hot Toys figure and the eyes were just LEDs rather than frosted. But yeah, it lights up really nicely, and they do give you the batteries for it, so that's good. Okay, so aesthetically, we covered that. Accessories, he doesn't have the most. He has a decent spread of hands, nothing incredible. It's just enough, really. And I think you could have a few more that aren't quite as stylized. Like, he doesn't really have a secondary hand for holding the gun if you wanted to two-hand the gun. Things like that could be a little bit better. You do get an alternate face, so you get the neutral face and then the angry one, or in pain one. That's a pretty good one. And then for the wings, if you want to call them that, the doors, you have these hinge pieces that allow them to move around. You can flip them around however you want on the back, or you can bring them around to the front. I don't have it set up for it right now, but you can bring them around to the front so they look like they're coming off of the shoulder pad. You have to move these around a little bit. I'll do it in a photo so you can see, but you get that option, so that's pretty cool. You also get an option to swap out those hinged pieces for some fixed pieces, and those tab into the arms, so you can use them as like Captain America shields, sort of. So that's pretty cool. You do get his gun, which extends from either a longer gun that can easily be held with two hands if he had the right hands, or more of like a pistol. It just kind of squishes down, and it does connect to his shoulder mount, so you can either make it face forward or backward as a storage thing, so that's pretty cool. And then lastly, you get a display stand, which I think is just overly too large. All around too large, if I can speak English. It's just so basic looking, and it's fine, but there's no, I have it at like the shortest way you can do it, and actually have this tab come in properly, is right there. And that is too high. He cannot touch the base. It's just a big, giant thing, almost the same size of his legs, going up into his taint. And I didn't think I was going to work taint into a review today, but I did. It's too much. And he's not a Gundam. He's a ground-based character. His feet can't touch. So I don't like that. Putting him into action poses on there, cool enough, sure, but he's not a flyer. So it doesn't really make sense that he doesn't touch the ground, and the base is huge, so I am not interested in that. I don't like it, in fact, so that's not good. So accessory-wise, I'm only going to give this guy a 6. It's just not really enough. I think for the price point, we should have gotten more hands, maybe a blast effect or something, or a stand that isn't bigger than the figure, that keeps him up in the air like he's flying, even though he is not. So that's bothersome. Okay, now let's talk about the articulation. These guys are very well engineered. There's a lot of die cast, a lot of palm. They basically have all the good plastics in here, but the joints have a lot of die cast in them, and they tend to work really well. So let's see. The head on this guy, the heads are somewhat limited. Like, you can probably go farther, but you also will break the lighting component. So the neck is on a ball peg, and it can rotate, of course. Then the head can rotate on top of the neck, though it tends to just move the neck with it. It's still pretty good range. For a Transformer, you should be alright. For the shoulder pads, these guys move independently, by the way, this top layer. So that's good. But you also get the inner shoulder, which these little flaps allow him to raise up. It's like a butterfly joint that goes up, so that's pretty cool. And you also get the butterfly joint that goes forward, so pretty good option there. And then you get the ball peg that lets him actually move his arm all the way up. It's very stiff. There you go. Between the inner joint and the outer joint, you can get up to better than horizontal. So I think that's pretty good. That's like, for a Transformer, I think it's fine. It would be nicer if all that engineering resulted in more, but it's not bad. There's a ball in there and a hinge in here, so it's pretty good. And then you get your rotation, of course. Bicep swivel, pretty much a standard thing. You can see the double jointed elbow. Nothing to write home about. I mean, it works really well, and it looks good. Good enough, but it's nothing incredible. Alright, you can rotate around the forearm. That helps you to use those car doors as shields, so you can either have them facing that way or facing that way. I probably leave them like that most of the time, frankly, and then rotate it this way when the arm goes up or hand goes up, but that's good. Extra option there. There's a ball peg holding his wrist thing in, so that gives him extra posability in every direction, and then the wrists are just on a swivel. I do wish or the hands, I wish they connected more. They don't have any like positive connection, it's just sliding over a peg, but it's okay. For the torso, we can lean back. Let's go ahead and pop this off. Well, I'll leave it on actually. These can both come off. I want to see how far we can lean. Okay, well, that part's not supposed to pop off, but apparently it can. Oops. Let me pull this off so I can show you the torso easier. So yeah, I guess that's another option, is you can just not have the wings on there at all. But there we go. He doesn't lean back that far, probably because they know he's going to have the backpack on most of the time. But he leans forward a little bit at that top joint, not a ton. I think they could have done a little bit more with that. Leaning side to side happens down here, and it's there, but it's not a ton. Again, I think it's just okay. And then of course you get your waist rotation, and there's a ball peg down, or it's just a hinge, not a ball peg. So it's not incredible. It's just enough. And for a transformer it's fine, but it doesn't transform, so I'm not thrilled with it. His extra skirt flap piece does have a little hinge on it. That just tabs in there. You don't need to put that on if you don't want to, so you don't have to. Alright, so speaking of skirt flaps, he does have the two on the back that connect on ball pegs. Same thing on the sides and the front. Your standard fare skirt flaps, nothing special. And then for the leg, you get your rotation. He has really good range in the hip, so that's good. It's nice and stiff, no problem there. Going out to the side. With the skirt flap up, you get basically full-on splits, so that's really nice, and it's a very stiff joint, so you're not going to have to worry about him falling. You do get a thigh swivel. It's very limited, though, so be aware of that. Double jointed knee, pretty nice design. It's a little cumbersome because he's got big giant Mega Man boots, but you can bend that leg up pretty far. It's a pretty deep knee bend, so I like that. The way things fold in on each other, that's pretty good too. So I'll take that. And then for this part, I'm not sure why they did this. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. This part can come off, and this part moves, but I can't really get it to move with it on, so I don't know. This doesn't move, by the way. Don't try to flip that out. It looks like it might. It doesn't. I don't know why they did this exactly. It should move some, but it doesn't really do much, so I don't know what's going on with that. But the ankles have very good range. There's a lot of movement in there. It just gets really, really gappy. So moving it forward and back is no problem at all. And that's just at the top joint. You can also move the foot. That's pretty good. And the toe hinge, which isn't the best looking thing, but it's there. And you get a really nice ankle rocker. Oh, it's all die cast. You can see it right there. It's very stiff, but it does work. So you get a decent ankle rocker, decent range all around, but it's just very gappy. I think they needed a little bit more plating in there to hide that. You can play with it some to get it to be more the way you want it, but it's still going to end up really gappy. So his articulation is functional enough. It would be impressive if he transformed, but he doesn't, so therefore he should be really posable. And I guess he is enough, but for $300 I want more. I'm going to give his articulation only a 7. He just doesn't feel as good as he probably should, given the price point and what I was expecting. Also, one thing that bothers me, you can see the wiring a little bit too much in the back of the neck. I don't like the way they did that. That should be tucked in way more. That red thing right there is just a wire sticking out of the back of his neck. So, okay, final verdict on this guy. It's cool. I like it. I like Optimus way more. I like Optimus Primal way more. I think this one is not as much for your money. I think the level of finish is good. The quality is good. It's all there. I get why they cost a lot. But for me to justify it personally, I'm not sure there's enough going on. It's cool. I like it, but I'm not sure it's there. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. But I'm going to give this guy only a 7. I get where the money's going. It's a really high level of finish, but I'm not sure it's enough for me. Alright, that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below and we'll talk. But otherwise, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, you might want to. I have new videos just about every single day, and I do have thousands of videos already on the channel, so make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.